Mixing with my career building tip, own what you buy. So, normally, when we get into things like this, whether it's plugins or gear or anything with microphones and all that sort of stuff, often what I tell people when they ask me, whether they should get a particular thing, one of the questions that I'll ask them is it something that you want or something that you need? And there's a big difference there between the two. And the reason why I say that is that sometimes it's easy to get caught up in this idea. It's like, oh, that's cool. I want to get that. That's like the latest thing. I want to be like on top of it. And sometimes that's relevant and important. And it depends where you are in terms of your standing professionally. And maybe that's a difference maker, that particular thing, in terms of moving forward and helping you to develop your career. And sometimes it's just another tool that is going to get lost in the pile of other tools. So what I wanted to get to here with this tip in terms of own what you buy is actually, when I say own, what I mean is to really understand and use the tool that you've purchased. So if you purchase a plugin, say in this case it's the Abbey Road Reverb Plates plugin that is part of this same class and is a plugin of the week at the same time that I'm making this career building tip. And you get that. What you really want to do is you really want to use that plugin. Maybe the first time that you use it or the first couple times you use it, with any plugin, maybe you're not getting the results that you're looking for. And the tendency might be to kind of put it on the shelf and put it away. But what I'm recommending here is that you continue to use it, continue to integrate it, get an idea of how it works, really understand the depth and breadth of it. You see, if we go back, historically in working in studios, one of the things that I think made records so creative was the fact that the things that you're working at, the studio you're working at, no matter how good, had a limited amount of stuff. In other words, every studio would have some limitations. You're tracking drums, and maybe you don't have the best mic collection. So you have to be really creative in being able to get great sounds. And so you really work and you own those microphones and the settings and the placement, and you get every ounce of what you can out of the placement of the drums in the room, the tuning of the drums, the treatment in the room, and getting it so that when you capture that recording, you capture the essence of everything that you're looking for. And you end up with a great recording, even though maybe you had a pile of 57s in a Mackie console, not in a Class A studio, but you get the basic idea. And that's someone who owns the equipment. I always felt like I defined myself more by my ability to get great sounds using lesser equipment. And that doesn't mean you need to limit yourself to that. But when you have something and when you have a situation, and part of being in those situations where you're in a studio, you need to do a mix and there's only 2 reverbs in the room, is that you have to find a creative way to make that work. And one of the problems with having tons and tons of tools, that if you don't own any of them, then you don't have go-to ones. You don't look at it like when you buy a plugin and it's like you figure out, you use it on everything. You figure out, what does it work on? What does it not work on? What are the settings? Sometimes it takes me 6 months or a year to really learn a plugin. Something simple like the Kramer tape plugin, I use that and I still find unique, cool settings and new ways of using it that take a really long time to figure out. And the more that you own it, the more that you use it, the more that you really get into all the intricacies and the delicacies of it, the more valuable of a tool it becomes. And the whole reason for buying something is that it's valuable to you, not it's something to have. So when you look at, if you follow the videos and you look at when I open up a plugin setting and there's 8 trillion plugins, there's many reasons for that. Part of what I do in terms of the way that I interact and work with my clients is that quite often we are sharing mixes and working together. And so part of the relationship and having all of those plugins is part of a client relationship whereby if I send the full mix to somebody, they have every plugin that I'm using. And we trade a list of what plugins that we have and that we don't have. And as we continue to work together, then we keep that consistent and we finish mixes together, working back and forth, where each client can open up the full mix and hear exactly what the other person was doing in their own environment. And then you get this incredible professional relationship. That's a business decision that I made, in the purchase of all those plugins that I have is very particular to the relationships the specific relationships that I have with those clients, and the plugins that I want to feature to show people. Sometimes there's a new plugin, it's like, hey, this is really cool, I want to show people about it. That's another part of it. But I own those things, I use them. and I manage them. I figure them out. How do they work? What is this good at? What is it not good at? And what can I use it on? And then it becomes a valuable extension of all the things that you use. But you have to own it. So in the same way that, if you have a garage full of 100 cars and you go out and you say, I want to go for a drive, you not know where to start. Like, which car do I pick? That type of thing. Now, if you have enough money to have that many cars, you probably, you probably have a good idea in your head what you're going to use. So maybe that's not the best example, but that's the basic idea. You may go in and it's like, where do I begin? And you have to have something that you have a solid foundation. When I put this on, I know what sound I'm going to get. And then as you build that collection and build that relationship, that ownership of all those things that you have individually, you get the most out of all those components. And then you build an arsenal of different ways to approach different things. So as you build that collection, all the pieces of that collection are valuable to you and usable to you, and you can manage them and work them and understand them and use them with intelligence and in the right situations. And that's probably the most valuable thing you can get from making purchases, is making sure that when you buy things, you really understand them, you use them, and you integrate them in as many ways as possible so you understand what their capabilities are. Maybe it's something that in the end ends up being a bad purchase. We've all done those things. That happens to everybody. Sometimes you get something that you think, it's like, I'm not so sure about this, and it becomes like a go-to plugin for you in almost any situation. These are the things that you can only learn by owning and really getting into it. Otherwise, a first impression can sometimes lead you down the wrong path. So use it, own it. That's the Mixing with Mike career building tip of the week.